Here we have a Sonoff Basic R2. We're going to modify this so that the relay is isolated and it runs off 5 volts instead of the AC mains. So we're going to start by unsoldering the relay here. Just going to use the helping hands here to stabilize this a bit. Keep it from moving on me. Okay, there's the relay unsoldered. Now I'm going to cut, actually I'm going to unsolder these two wires here from this. This is what this is the circuit that reduces the voltage from the AC mains to the DC 5 volts that comes out to power the rest of the circuit, like the relay. The relay runs on 5 volts, the chip runs on 3.3. So I'm going to unsolder this and this blue capacitor, and then I'm going to make the other modification. So those wires are here and here. And that one is the blue capacitor right there. What I'm doing is I'm just pulling on the wire a bit so I can just pull it out. Okay, so we've got everything unsoldered. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the board here on this side. Here, I'll cut this wire. We're not going to use this wire this long. Get that out of the way so I can show you where I'm cutting. Cut the board there. And then there's another spot that it needs to be cut right here. So that's what we're doing, is we're separating the AC component from the logic. Now what we're going to do is we're going to solder the relay back in. So I'm just going to clean the solder off the legs here first, so it slides through the hole a little better. And then, oh wait, it's this side that we need to clean them off on. So the two legs that are staggered like this, these two legs here that are staggered, those are the legs that are for the contacts. These are the two legs for the coil of the relay. So these two that are in line with each other, those are the two that we're going to fold over. I'm going to fold them down like so, and then we're going to insert it back into the circuit board here. And it looks like there's some solder in one of the holes, so I'm just going to have to clean that up real quick. Now that those holes are free, we'll take the relay, mount it in this way, and solder it back in place. We're going to attach these two wires to the relay. So I'm hoping that this will just I'm hoping that this is just going to hold it in place just by heating that up. Yeah, that's not going anywhere now. Now what I can do is use this to hold it for me while I properly solder it. So now that the relay is soldered, we can solder these wires to the relay, and we're going to shorten the wires too. We don't need them quite so long. I'm going to start by tinning these wires. I'm suspicious that these wires may be aluminum. It's funny that I'm soldering this wire and it's getting hot over here. It's just transferring the heat really a lot. So that's the relay isolated from the rest of the circuit. So now basically these two contacts are these. Now we need to add 5 volts. So I mentioned in one of my other videos how to fix USB cables, but if you can't fix them, you cut them off and you use them for projects like this. So we have 4 wires in the USB cable. Typically you're going to have 2 other colors that are for TX and RX, and then there's usually ground and 5 volts. So we'll just strip the wire there and tin it. Sorry about that, my soldering iron turned off. Now this wire is the ground, and I'm going to use the ground point, which is right there. So I need to make this a little bit smaller, so I'm just going to peel back some of these wires to make this a little bit smaller before I tin it. Otherwise I'll never get it through that hole. So just give me a minute. So I've left the wires on there just to show you what I mean. I just peeled back some of the wires. I haven't cut them off yet. I'm just going to tin this part though, and then I'll cut the rest of that off because we don't need that. Okay, so we're going to hook up the ground now. But what I want to do is I want to cover some of this with some heat shrink so that it doesn't short out against anything. So now we have to put that through the ground there. Now I'm just going to cut these other 2 off, get them out of the way. We're not using those. So we have the plus 5 volts that we need to hook up. And we're going to hook it up to this leg of the relay. This one here, because it's at 5 volts all the time. They must switch the ground off and on to power the relay, to switch the relay on and off. So I'm just going to run it across like that. Okay, so now we should be able to power this up using the USB and switch it on and off. I'm just going to trim off this little bit of extra on the 5 volts. Get it out of the way. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So what I'll do is I'll put it in the case like that, so it still is in the case. There's no high voltage in here at all. And we should be able to use this. Okay, so here it is all put together. I did notice that when I was putting it together, the relay is a little tighter than I was expecting. So it's there's just a little bit of a gap there. It seemed really really tight until I put the screws in here. And then that seemed to close up the shell pretty good. And I've got a USB port here, we'll plug it in. And I have my computer here. And I'm using Tasmota on mine, but this should work without modifying it. There's the relay. So you got a low voltage switch that you can control with 5 volts or USB. Alright, that's it.